everyone, and welcome back to another consignment update here. Guitar auctions at Gardiner Houlgate. I'm Luke Hobbs, head of department and auctioneer. We've got another great sale coming up from the 9th to the 12th of September, 4-day sale. We're closed for entries now. We've got over 1,800 lots again, not quite as big as the last sale, but only 50 lots shy. We didn't think it would be that big a sale, but these things, they just happen, it just comes in. We do have a fantastic video today, starting with a lot of artist associated stuff, so do stay tuned for that. We will kick off with that, and then we'll go into some guitars without artist provenance shortly afterwards. As usual, please subscribe to the channel if you like this content. Of course, we'll let you decide at the end. Hit the like button and hit the bell icon. It helps. Well, the bell icon gets you notified for future updates, but the like button also shows this to like-minded people. So please do that. It helps our channel grow, and it helps us to do more of these videos, certainly. If you go to the website guitarauctions.com, you probably will see a big bumper upload. I believe we've got every guitar from day one at least listed on there. Affordable guitars day 2, they're not quite on there yet, but they will be coming soon. We're hoping by the middle of this month to have the full catalogue published, so keep checking back on the website, and then of course when it's all fully published it will be open for bidding as well. So I hope you enjoy this video today. Like I said, auctions taking place 9th to 12th of September 2025. And I hope you enjoy. So we're starting today with lots of pretty awesome memorabilia, quite a few pieces that we've got in this section, that most of which should be previewed on the website now, guitarauctions.com. But we're starting with a collection of guitars from Martin Lee. Sadly passed away last year, but he was one of 4 singers in the 1970s, 80s UK group Brotherhood of Man, and they had significant success, and most would know them as they won Eurovision in 1976 with Save Your Kisses for Me. So a few guitars from his collection coming up, many of which were used live in various situations. So this is, as you can see, Yamaha Acoustic. I'm just going to take this guard off as it is loose. I'm going to hand that to the invisible hand. And we have a 1970s Yamaha FG300. And this can be seen in various performances. There is there's some BBC footage of this being used during a performance of one of their singles, Oh Boy. There we go. So as you can see, it has had use. It's been electrified over the years. It wouldn't have originally had all this in. I think the electrics are currently bypassed from what I can remember, but comes in a period hard case as well. So that is first up from Martin Lee, Brotherhood of Man, and used with them. One thing that should be noted is Martin, as I mentioned, he sadly passed away last year, and he did die of a heart attack, and so the proceeds of these instruments are going to go to the British Heart Foundation, so a good cause as well. So all the proceeds go to the British Heart Foundation. And in here we have probably the most significant in terms of value from the collection, and there's a few nice bits of provenance to go with it. So this is, as we can see from the back there, the 1977 serial numbered at least, but 1977, 1978 Gibson Les Paul Custom. It was certainly ordered through Norlin in 1978 in this wine red finish, and you can see it's in pretty good condition. But it has been used. There is a televised performance that you can find online. It'll be in the footnote of the catalogue, of Martin using this in middle of the night, televised performance of that, and the other guitarist is also using his, so they both ordered one each. Now in the case here somewhere there's various set lists and things in this case and various business cards and all sorts really. And we have this Norlin receipt as well, made out to the offices in London, but you can see Gibson Les Paul Custom and with the protector case. So back then, the total value coming to £907.05. There we go. So yeah, again, great provenance. You can see this guitar in a televised performance of middle of the night, where you can see Martin using this guitar. So in here, another one of Martin's guitars. This is a I'm pretty sure it's 1981. This is an Ovation 1612 model. So acoustic guitar, electroacoustic. Lots of artists in the 1970s and 80s used Ovation guitars. And again, this would have been used by Martin in various performances. There are some set lists in the case as well, and an old strap and various tools and things. So you can see that they were used by Martin, and there's one of his old business cards, look. And here, just to finish off the guitars from the collection, we have a 2015 Epiphone Blueshawk Deluxe, and we have a Fender Stratocaster Acoustasonic, so one of the earlier Acoustasonic instruments. So these were both used. There's lots of footage of Martin using these in much later performances, sort of doing the circuit, sort of various reunion events. So yeah, you can see these in action. Lots of photos of Martin appearing with these online as well. Along with these guitars, we do also have a little small Fender sort of practice amp as well that are being sold for that collection. So like I said, they're all going to be sold on behalf of the British Heart Foundation to raise funds. Where have they come from? Well, we are selling them on behalf of Sandra, the widow. So it was a pleasure to meet Sandra, and Sandra was also in the band as well, Brotherhood of Man. So yeah, quite an honour meeting a Eurovision winner as well. But lovely to meet her, and a great privilege to offer these guitars on behalf of the British Heart Foundation. So some interesting MXR and MXR type pedals here, and these were used by Pete Townshend of The Who. So they do have some Pat stickers on the back from 1982. Now, and you can see there, this one's inscribed Who. This one is also inscribed underneath Who as well. Now, where did these come from? Well, these were acquired by the vendor from Barry Nickel, who used to work alongside Alan Rogan. He acquired them off of Alan Rogan, who was Pete's guitar tech, and stated that he used them, Pete Townshend did use them with The Who, I'm assuming back in the 1980s based on the dates on them. But I've sold a lot of things from Alan Rogan's estate in the past, and there's lots of modified MXR type pedals like these, so I can vouch for them certainly. And we've also spoken to Simon Law, Pete's now tech, or seen sort of correspondence with Simon Law, stating that they are very similar to ones that are in stock. So yeah, they've come from a very good source. And what will they make at auction? We don't know. Could be low hundreds, could be mid hundreds, could be high hundreds. I know one of Pete Townshend's Maestro pedals did sell at auction once for over $10,000, which is quite amazing really. But you know, a Maestro pedal is a bit more of a collectible item, and would have been probably only one that he had. But there we go, some Pete Townshend used with The Who MXR Dynacomp pedals. As you can tell, I'm not a double bass player. This also has artist provenance. It's a 1950s, so we're told, Czechoslovakian double bass. Obviously, I'm not an expert of double basses, but there is certainly a made in Czechoslovakia label inside. And this was previously owned by Jack Bruce. I guess of Cream fame is the big one for me. How I know Jack Bruce, big fan of Cream. And this is one of 3 double basses that he owned throughout his lifetime. He actually had a German double bass that he famously wrote Sunshine of Your Love on. Now, Jack Bruce, he started on cello, quickly turning his attention to double bass before he picked up the standard electric bass in 1964. So he was originally a double bass player before going to the standard or electrified traditional bass guitar. Now, in terms of provenance, where's this come from? Well, some of you may or may not know, but after Jack Bruce passed away, Sotheby's had an auction, the Jack Bruce collection, and this was purchased by the vendor from that sale. He purchased 2 guitars and this double bass. One of the bass guitars we actually sold for him a few years ago now. So yeah, this is an ex-Sotheby's lot from the Jack Bruce collection, and it's coming up in our next auction on the 9th of September. So before we move on to looking at some more guitars, we're going to have a look at some amps, all of which is Ampeg gear that you probably would have seen behind me as I've been talking through the other lots. So first up we have an Ampeg rig that was used by AC/DC. So if I go down to the flight case here, you will see the 1620 stock number and Cliff Williams' name, and you can faintly see the AC/DC logo. Now the reason the AC/DC logo is so faint is because when they were released out into public, they were all painted over in black, but the owner, he very carefully rubbed it back to try and reveal the logo, which he successfully did. So there's an AC/DC logo on this side and on the other, and obviously a similar thing happened to Cliff Williams. But these are official stock numbers. And we do have a photo actually of a lot of flight cases being loaded onto the van. You can see all the stencil cases from sort of various tours. Now, these were acquired by the vendor from Jeff Banks. So the vendor was actually very good friends with Jeff Banks, who was, Jeff Banks, unfortunately no longer with us, was Malcolm Young's tech. And he was also the stage manager at some times. I have email correspondence as well as a receipt of sale from Jeff Banks with the corresponding stock numbers for these items. So the provenance is completely cast iron, I guess, which is the great thing. So what these were used on, we don't actually know. The head, which belonged in this case, which is here, is an Ampeg SVT2 Pro. This dates to 2004. Now, the cabinet underneath that belonged in this flight case dates to 1999. So we're also told that in the Black Ice Tour, which was 2008-2009, it's around that time anyway, they changed everything to SVT4s, and you can see that there's evidence of that on the on various video footage of that tour. So these were used sometime between 2005, or certainly the head was, and the Black Ice Tour when everything was upgraded. And Jeff Banks was, Jeff Banks was possibly not with them then as well. But anyway, these were acquired by the vendor from Jeff Banks in 2014. But they have great provenance, sort of direct from source. So like I said, we got the head and we got the cabinet. One interesting thing about the cabinet is it fits into this flight case upright, and there's a port in the back to plug straight into, and there's also a sticker on the side of the flight case that says studio. So there is a thought that it was actually used, that the cabinet at least was used in the studio as well. But in terms of stage setup, AC/DC always had 4 heads and 4 cabinets. They had 2 behind Cliff Williams, and they had 1 either side of Angus and 1 either side of Malcolm for monitoring purposes. Jeff had always indicated that this was the one that was on Malcolm's side. So it was the monitor for Malcolm, albeit feeding Cliff Williams' bass. So yeah, pretty cool lot there, and we expect to achieve somewhere between 4,000 and 8,000 for it. So if you're an AC/DC fan or know anyone who's an AC/DC fan, then this may well be of interest. And sticking with Ampegs, we have another interesting Ampeg amp here. So this is a 70s SVT model, and this has got a very interesting provenance indeed. The vendor is Matt Owens, who was the bass player for Noah and the Whale. Matt is now a solo Americana artist and someone we do know quite well, friends of the auction house, or a friend of the auction house, and regularly comes down and views, and he happens to live in the Bath area. So great guy, great musician as well, so do go and check him out. But yeah, he was the bassist for British Indian folk band Noah and the Whale, who had many hits. I'm sure many of you know them. But he used this amp on lots and lots of tours, basically worldwide tours. He used this with his Fender Precision bass. But he actually acquired the amp from Pino Palladino's tech when Pino was with The Who, and Pino did use this amp with The Who. Now, before Pino had it, we are told that it was also used by Led Zeppelin. We don't have any proof of that. Matt's been trying to get hold of the chap to get the provenance off, which he's struggling to do so, struggling to track him down. But Matt was told that before Pino, this was used by Led Zeppelin. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. There is footage of Pino using one of these heads in footage, live footage with The Who. So we're assuming it is this one, but it certainly was sold to Matt from Pino's tech sort of many years ago, and then used on various Noah and the Whale tours. So another great Ampeg amp with cool provenance. So another previously owned by an artist guitar. So this is a, just pick it up, 2015 Fender Chris Shiflett Telecaster. So a good guitar in its own right. I like these a lot. Telecaster Deluxe, big headstock, humbucker pickups. And you'll see there's a signature there. Now that signature is James Arthur's. For those of you who don't know who James Arthur is, he was the 2012 X Factor winner. For those of you who follow X Factor, I can't say I personally do, but there we go. So still active within music, James Arthur. This was his personal guitar and signed by him. And this was given away in a HMV competition that coincided with one of his albums. As you can see on the back, property of James Arthur, labelled to the back, and this has been consigned by the lady who won the guitar in the HMV competition. And just for extra provenance, we have, just looking there, I'm going to cover their details over, but a invoice or shipping document made out to the vendor from Sony Music Entertainment Limited. So there we go, a James Arthur owned Chris Shiflett Telecaster. So another guitar with some provenance. So we have a autographed Gibson Les Paul. There we go, 2007 Gibson Les Paul Studio. And this has got many fantastic names on, which I'm going to go through. And because I've got a lot of information I have to constantly retain in my head, I'm going to do a naughty and read it off a screen. You see Mick Ralph's there, at least on the back. There we go. So I'm going to pick up my screen while Chris focuses on the guitar. So on this guitar we have Alice Cooper, Geezer Butler of Black Sabbath, Duff McKagan of Guns N' Roses, Francis Rossi and Rick Parfitt of Status Quo, Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, Kerry King of Slayer, Meat Loaf and his daughter, Mick Ralphs and Ian Hunter from Mott the Hoople, and of course Mick Ralphs also Bad Company, Jeff Wayne, as known for War of the Worlds, Ian Pace and Jackie Pace, so Ian Pace of Deep Purple, Joe Elliott of Def Leppard, Tony Iommi and Vinny Appice, so that's Black Sabbath, and of course Dio, Richard Barberi of Japan, Porcupine Tree, Chris Robertson, Ben Wells, John Fred Young and Steve Jewell of Blackstone Cherry, Stephen Wilson also of Porcupine Tree, Scott Ian of Anthrax, Scott Rowley, who is the Classic Rock magazine editor-in-chief, which does relate to the provenance, and Susie Ronson, the wife of Mick Ronson. Now, this guitar was autographed at the 2007 Classic Rock and Roll of Honour event in London. And of course this is an award show, so lots of these artists were did win awards in that event that do appear on this guitar. So an incredible collection of autographs really, and you tend to find that autographs on guitars are the ones that do hold value most of all. So fantastic opportunity there, and you know, sort of, well, it's a unique item really, because you won't get another item with these exact autographs again, and some huge names, especially ones relating to Black Sabbath, very relevant at the moment. But there we go. And many of you may have seen this rather interesting looking Strat behind me. This has some really interesting provenance actually, but let's have a look at the guitar first. This is a 1963 Fender Stratocaster. As I think most of you can probably see now, it is refinished, body refinish, but it was refinished certainly before 1982 when the current owner acquired the guitar. Lots of wear. I will say it's a fantastic Stratocaster, really nice player, but there we go, refinished neck as well. You can see the later Clusen tuners. We've got replaced block. We do actually have the original block. I will get on to what these things in the back of the guitar are in a minute. Replacement saddles, pickguard original. It has had another pickguard on at some point because there are some holes underneath, but this is certainly an original green guard. You can see it's got some damage. It's had a refret fairly recently because it has been played. So this guitar is owned by a chap called Eamon McCormack, who is a very successful session player and artist in his own right. And we're just going to go and have a look at some various photos here that we can see of people he has played with in the past. Now, part of the provenance of this guitar is there is some relationship to Rory Gallagher, which is the main, I guess, selling point of this guitar. But he was good friends of Rory Gallagher. Eamon McCormack is Irish himself, but you can see the various gigs he's done. So Eric Gales, Joanne Shaw Taylor, there we go, Tony Joe White, Niels Lofgren, Brian Robertson. There's a picture of Eamon with the guitar in 1982, the earliest picture he has with the instrument. We've got George Thorogood there, Jan Ackerman and Walter Trout. Now, in terms of the provenance of this guitar, Eamon bought this guitar in 1982 and it was on recommendation by Rory Gallagher. Now, Rory Gallagher had seen this Strat in Phil Harris's stock, where Rory used to get a lot of his instruments. Rory had just got a Telecaster from him and he said to Eamon, if you want an old Strat, go and buy this one. A month later, Eamon did. He went down and bought it. So the refinishing was done beforehand. I guess back then it didn't really matter. A Strat was a Strat at the end of the day. And yeah, he's owned it and played it ever since then. Now, part of the reason Eamon's selling it is because he is endorsed by FGN, Fujigen Guitars, and they have built him essentially a replica, which I guess he's required to use now. He's putting this one up for sale. So Rory Gallagher has played this guitar. Of course, he was the one who recommended it. But Rory Gallagher actually appeared on Eamon McCormack's album Kindred Spirits. There's a signed copy of the album there to go with the lot. And if I turn it over, we can see Falsely Accused. There it is with Rory Gallagher guesting. Now, that song is the last ever song Rory Gallagher is on before he passed away. Of course, Rory no longer with us. But yeah, that is the very last song he appeared on. So yeah, lots of big artists have played this guitar. Many of these artists as well, photographed with Eamon, have also played the guitar. Now, if we turn the guitar over, there's some cool little things that have been stuck in, sort of to add mojo to the guitar, some little charms. So there is a BB King badge that was given to Eamon McCormack by BB King himself, and he stuck it to the back of his guitar. And there is also a piece of red fabric here, as you can see. Now, that red fabric is from one of Jimi Hendrix's wristbands. Now, Eamon was at Noel Redding's residence, and Noel had one of Jimi Hendrix's wristbands hung up on his wall, and he allowed Eamon to cut a very, very small piece off the band and he subsequently stuck it to his guitar. So some cool touches there. All the provenance is in the catalogue footnote, and there is also, the guitar is also going to be sold with a statement of provenance from Eamon himself. But a cool Strat. It's a great player with lots of history, and that will also be coming up on the 9th of September. So before we talk about this Baldwin guitar, there's lots of other artist associated guitars in the sale that we featured in previous videos. And obviously if you have a look at the preview catalogue, they will be up there by the time this video goes out. So of course we do have the Jimmy Page guitar, we've got an Eric Clapton owned acoustic, a Chris Rea Stratocaster, a Pete Townshend acoustic, guitar signed by Chet Atkins. There's a lot there to feast your eyes upon, but just before we go into guitars without provenance, because I'm sure a lot of you actually want to see some guitars that might be more affordable to the masses, I guess, rather than the investment in collectors. Of course, I don't know who is viewing this video. We will have a look at this. So this is a 1967 Baldwin Double Six 12-string, and this was previously used live and in the studio by Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits. Now this has really interesting provenance. So this has been consigned by a lifelong friend of Mark Knopfler, so childhood friend, went to school together, who purchased this guitar himself in the mid-1970s. Now, the vendor and Mark Knopfler, they sort of have had a lifelong relationship, being friends, of exchanging gear between each other. Now, shortly after the vendor acquired this instrument, he lent it to Mark Knopfler, where it basically remained for around 50 years in Mark's possession. Now, the great thing about this guitar is there's lots of photos of Mark using the guitar. Now, he used this instrument for Angels of Mercy. That was one song that he was often seen using this guitar live during. And according to Hal Lindes, member of Dire Straits, it's also documented that he used this guitar live on Portobello Bell. So sort of two great songs by Dire Straits. There is also footage from back in 1986 of Mark Knopfler using this guitar for a rendition of Sailing with Rod Stewart at the Princess Trust event, gala event. So again, you can see this guitar in action. So lots of provenance, lots of photos, various footage of Mark using this guitar. Now, how did it come to us? Well, as most of you know, on the 31st of January 2024, I'm sure some of you were at the auction, Mark Knopfler had a sale of his guitars at Christie's in London. Now, this guitar was originally highlighted as one of the instruments to feature in that sale, but when Mark and his team were looking through the inventory, they suddenly realised that this guitar was actually lent to Mark rather than him owning it himself. So he returned it to his childhood friend, who is the vendor. So there's some correspondence actually between the vendor and Christie's about the return of the guitar. Yeah, and then it went back to the vendor. That would have been late last year, and it's now been consigned with us to go through our next sale on the 9th of September. So Mark Knopfler, even though the vendor has technically owned this guitar since the 70s, Mark Knopfler's actually been the one with it in his possession for roughly 50 years. Like I said, there's various footage of him sat down playing the guitar in the studio or stood up on stage playing it. There is an image online in the Getty Images archive of him using this guitar as early as 1979. But the vendor seems to remember he got it in around mid-1970s, and it went to Mark shortly after that. So fascinating story, one that nearly went into the Christie's sale, but didn't. We've got a pre-sale guide of 30 to 50,000 on it. In the Christie's auction, there were many Burns and Baldwin guitars from this period that were selling for between 20 and 25,000 from memory, but let's just say 20,000, although none of those had any real documentation or certainly photographic evidence, even though they were sold by Mark himself, of when and where they were used. And this one does. So a fantastic provenance. And yeah, your chance, if you missed out in the Mark Knopfler sale at Christie's, here's your chance to score a Mark Knopfler owned guitar. So we now are on to guitars without any artist provenance that we're aware of, at least anyway. Who knows who could have used these guitars over the years. But we don't often get these in, so I thought I would show this to you. I think it's one of the coolest Framus models you can get. One of their solid body guitars is a Framus Nashville from roughly 1974. I believe Jan Ackerman was known for using these from memory. But yeah, there we go. It's 1974 Framus Nashville. So here's a pretty special guitar if you're into your archtop jazz guitars. We have a Super 400. We had many of them in the last auction, but we didn't have a vintage one. Although I guess some people are going to start calling 90s guitars vintage soon. This is a 1952 Super 400, which I believe second year for the model. If you look at Gibson shipping totals, only 7 were made and shipped in that year, and even less in the year before. I think there's only 2 the year before. But here you can see it in a sunburst finish. There is some lacquer overspray to the finish. There is also a neck repair at the heel that's also been refinished over, which this was actually purchased by the vendor from a very well-known American dealer who did not disclose the neck crack. I'm not going to name any names because that's not fair. But there we go. Comes in its original case, as you can see, the Lifton case. But a really, really stunning piece if you're into your Gibson jazzers. They don't come up that often at all. And yeah, don't miss out on this chance to get yourself a 1952 Gibson Super 400. And I thought just dawned on me, going back to the Super 400, we do have some original tags. You can see there, way back when, whenever that was, $595. A lot of money even back then. But we do also have some original paperwork from the Wurlitzer company where the guitar came from, with all the finance payments dated to 52. Really, really fantastic provenance, and always nice to see. And there we go, the Pennsylvania Belmont lease. Fantastic. What I have been trying to do in recent videos is actually try and show quite a lot, and pretty much in lot order, because of the little amount of time that we have to feature everything, because there's still a lot of guitars that we haven't shown you. I am being more selective, so if you want to look at some more budget range guitars or mid-range guitars, have a look at the preview website, because I think most of the guitars are online there now. So yeah, you can have a look up there and see what we've got, because I am being more selective. We will see in future videos where we get to, but anyway, Gibson Les Paul, lots of nice Les Pauls in this cell, and this is a Heritage Series Standard 80, which was really the start of the 50s reissue guitars. So made in 1980, has replacement pots, but the originals are retained, comes in its original case, and it's in pretty good condition. Comes with its designated number from the Heritage 80 series, and yeah, it has a, I was about to say it has a plain top, but actually, depending which way you hold it, the figuring does pop out. But the value is basically on these is basically determined by how plain or how figured the top is, and that can always be very subjective. But a great guitar nonetheless. In here we have a gypsy jazz guitar by a maker called Alexander Polyakov. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Did reside in Russia when he made this guitar, but I believe he has moved to the US now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but a very good maker, and this is his take on a small hole or petit bouche gypsy jazz guitar. So as typical, we've got a walnut neck, walnut back and sides, spruce top with all the Selmer type fittings. There we go. So it's in fantastic condition, and yeah, really is a stunning gypsy jazz guitar. So if you're after a decent gypsy jazz guitar, then look no further. Now, in here is an incredible Partcaster, which did have, when it came to us, a Fender logo on the head, which we have had to sand back to get rid of, because we certainly don't feel comfortable selling guitars incorrectly branded. But it did have a Fender Spaghetti logo on. Now, we don't know anything about this guitar in terms of who made it, but whoever did has done an incredible job. So we've got a nitro finished and relict black body. There we go, as you can see. And we have a nice V profile neck as well. So this is a 50s style, some decent big jumbo frets on there, so really nice player. And we've got a set of bare knuckle pickup and all this aged hardware, Fender stamped. I think they're Fender stamped saddles, aren't they? I can't see, I need to get my glasses on. There we go. And the Clusen style tuners, as you'd expect. So really, really good Partcaster. It deserves, really, I mean, I'd say this is on par with a lot of Fender custom shop stuff, quite honestly. So it deserves to be worth £1,500 to £2,000. It won't make that, it'll probably make mid-hundreds. So if you're after a Strat with a lot of vintage mojo, but don't want to pay Fender custom shop money, buy this. And I hope I haven't just escalated the price by doing this. So this will be lot 364 in the September auction. It's a Heritage, and this is their version of the Black Beauty Les Paul Custom. So in the black finish with the gold hardware. This is from 1992. There we go. So Heritage are essentially the original Gibson boys in the Kalamazoo factory. And it's in reasonable condition, a few dings and marks, but otherwise pretty good. And jumping back to Gibson, we have a vintage Les Paul Special here. So this is from 1974. See by the big head with the logo as well that this is a 70s era guitar, and of course with a Made in USA stamp as well. So yeah, this is a Les Paul Special. These Les Paul Specials from around this period are always really lightweight, so a nice lightweight fun guitar to throw around. It's got a previous owner's details on the back from America, certainly looks like from the number. So this has been put in by a vendor who I believe he got the guitar from Vintage and Rare Guitars in Bath many years ago. But a 1974 Gibson Les Paul Special. And here we have a lovely Martin acoustic guitar in great condition. This is a D41 from the 2000s. We've actually got a battery pack concealing the serial number on the neck block, unfortunately, which I'm loath to take off. Maybe I'll do it in the next week or so, but just to confirm the date, but it's certainly 2000s era, D41, fantastic instrument. Here we have a PRS guitar. It's a pretty early one as well. This is from 1989. This is a PRS Custom 24, and it's got an absolutely stunning top on it, and this sort of amber finish, very highly figured maple. If I turn it over, you will see as well the 10 that is stamped in there. So select woods on the top, 10 top. It has had lots of use. There is some sort of various dings and scratches. So the guys that are really into their PRS, the collectors, may be put off by some of the dings and marks, but it is still an early PRS. Brazilian rosewood board, of course, on these early PRSs as well. CITES certified for our sale, I will add. But yeah, there we go, a 1989 PRS Custom 24. Here we have one of the rarest and most coveted Fender custom shop guitars you can buy. So those of you who follow our socials, Instagram and Facebook, you may have already seen that we have this guitar. Be quite careful getting it out because it is essentially in mint condition. There we go. So this is a 1999 Fender Jaguar Stratocaster, so it's known as the XK50 Jaguar Strat. 25 were made, and they were made to celebrate the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of the XK50 engine. So it was a collaboration between Jaguar and Fender, built in the custom shop, all master built, and they have all of the bits as you'd expect. So we've got British Racing Green finish, and of course we have the walnut dash as well, the walnut back panel and the walnut guard as well. So yeah, really is a fantastic piece. And these were all sent to the top Jaguar showrooms back in the day, and there was only a handful that went out into the public domain. A lot of these have been dispersed since. I actually happen to know one collector who's got nearly 10 of these. Might be a few less, might be a few more, but he's obviously trying to collect the lot. And yeah, a fantastic instrument, like I said, in pretty much mint condition. Comes in its gig bag. That is, the materials were supplied by the same company that supply Jaguar with their leathers as well. But yeah, it really is a fantastic piece. Like I said, one of 25, one of the most desirable Fender custom shops that you can get. So we have a resonator. This is from the 1970s. This is a 114 Blues Special model. Don't often see these around. This is the first one I've ever had in. Yeah, in pretty good condition, some checking to the finish, but a good usable resonator from the 70s. In here we have a 1959, you could say it's a golden year for Gibson. This is an ES-140 3/4. You can see it has had some modifications. I think the great thing about this is the incredibly rare fitted Lifton case it comes with. I've never seen an original Lifton case with one of these. I'm sure many of you have. But it looks like there's a bit of overspray to the finish. The original Sunburst finish does appear to be under there though. Rather interestingly, we've got some Marshall style knobs, replaced tailpiece, I believe replacement tuners as well. So most of the hardware has been changed, but we do have the pickup and the body and neck at least. Guard is original. But there we go, in its really sweet Lifton hard case. Better not pass on this one. This is a 1980 Ibanez Joe Pass. It's the JP20, I believe. I'm going to have to remind myself now. There we go, JP20 it is. Hollow body, electric guitar, jazz guitar, and it's in pretty good condition despite the age. Not really many marks on, a few dings, but generally good in its original case. Just so we don't alienate our bass fans too much, I don't think we've featured a bass yet, but we will feature a 60s example. So this is from 1966. It's a Fender precision bass slab body, which are fairly collectible, these slab body versions. A lot of people like them, but it does have some originality issues putting it into that player's grade category. We've got the original decal there, tuners are okay, it has been refretted, and it has been refinished with a new guard. Otherwise, it's kind of all there, correct serial plate, all dated correctly, pots are okay, knobs are okay, but there we go, 1966, I guess, player's grade Fender precision bass guitar. So there we go, ladies and gents, a pack full of some wonderful things coming up in our next auction, 9th to 12th of September. As always, please remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, hit the bell icon, helps this channel grow, and do go to the website guitarauctions.com, where you can see the catalogue preview by the middle of the month. So if you are watching this video in a couple of weeks after publication, then you will notice the full catalogue is live online, but that will be coming in the middle of the month for those who are watching it on the day of publication or shortly afterwards. So thanks for joining us again. We look forward to seeing you with the next consignment update coming next week, and of course at the auction. We'll see you soon.